I'm very honored to introduce Gary Nowak, who was a very close friend of Tibor Rubin. And Tibor Rubin was sort of like a mentor to him. But I'm going to let Gary talk all about Tibor Rubin, and there will also be a short video. So, ladies and gentlemen, Gary Nowak.
Thank you, Sharon. As she said, my name is Gary Nowak. I am not a professional speaker, and you'll probably find that out in a short amount of time. I need to take my glasses off. I had some surgery on my eye, and I had a little bit of problem with this side. But when I take off my glasses, it doesn't glare. We lost about 15 minutes of my speech on the floor somewhere. I don't know what happened to it. But I do have some points I want to make. I thank Rosie for being here. Rosie has been just instrumental in helping me, as her father had been. And also I wanted to thank Randy for being here, because Randy had given me some courage to come here and speak. I'm trying to figure out how to cut this down. I'll go over some points here. Put these on for just a moment. My notes go to I'll start off the three main points. Bread, milk, eggs. I think I got the wrong, never mind. Like I said, you learn in a very short amount of time. I am not a professional. This is only the third time I've shown my video in public. The first time was on December 4th of 2015, which was the night before Tibor passed away. He passed away the morning, which was a Saturday, early in the morning of December 5th, 2015. I gave the speech, really short speech, and mainly showed the video, which we're going to see here in just a little bit. The second time I was talking in public was at his memorial. Rosie and her family were definitely mourning the loss of their father, their uncle, their friend, their hero, Tibor. And they really couldn't do a memorial, so I volunteered to do it. I was trying to get it done at the VA because Tibor had put in over 20,000 hours of volunteer time at the Long Beach VA that is now named the Tibor Rubin VA. But we weren't able to coordinate that. We were trying to find a venue, couldn't find the venue, and about 2 weeks before May 5th in 2016, I sat down with Rosie and the family and said it has to be on May 5th. It doesn't matter if it's in the park under a tree. We have to give this memorial on May 5th. And they looked at me and they said, Gary, what's the big deal? Why May 5th? I said, May 5th is National Holocaust Observance Day. May 5th is 5 months to the day that Tibor passed. May 5th is 1 year to the day that his book, Single-Handed, was released. May 5th, for the topper, was 71 years to the day that he was liberated from Mauthausen German concentration camp. Now, as Sharon shared about Randy Lieberman's father-in-law, he also was liberated from Mauthausen German concentration camp on May 5th, 1945. And we just realized that. I just connected with it. What was it, 2 days ago, Randy? 2 days ago, yeah. Yeah, this is her book. She is an author. She is a professional speaker. And that's why she was kind of coaching me on what to do and how to do it. Then the third time that I gave a speech and showed my video is tonight. Nice. I met Tibor Rubin at the Tibor Rubin VA. It was the Long Beach VA when I started working there. It was in 2010. My only regret was that I didn't meet him sooner. That really is a regret that I had, my only regret. He was such a dear friend of mine. He was my hero. He was an amazing human being. He was born on June 18, 1929. He was brought up in the town of Pastau, Hungary. When he was a child, his father thought that he was going to amount to nothing. He thought that he didn't have character because he kept skipping Hebrew school. Now his father, Farik, if I'm pronouncing it right, and if I seem like a monkey who's jumping in the tree from branch to branch, it's only because I'm like a monkey in a tree jumping from branch to branch. At least I don't smell like one most of the time. At least I hope. His mother, however, believed in Tibor. Now, the town of Pasto only had 6,000 residents. They only had one movie theater. They only had one car, and it was a taxi. And postage was very expensive. So she coaxed Tibor into making deliveries for people, like delivering from his father's store, shoes, because his father was a cobbler, and for other packages that other people needed in the community. Well, that gave him a little bit of pocket money. And with that pocket money, he would buy candy and other things for his friends, his family, and he would also go to the theater. He loved going to the theater because he loved Laurel and Hardy, the comedies, the adventures, Tarzan. He was afraid of Frankenstein, although he saw it 4 times. I think that that's part of the place where he established his humor, because he couldn't have made it through had he not had his sense of humor. And he had a laugh that, when he laughed, you had to smile, if not laugh, right along with him. His laugh was just infectious. Well, when he was 13, shortly after his bar mitzvah, it's when the country was really worried about the Nazis and about the Gestapo. And his parents were worried about him. And there was a band of men, professional men, who were hiding from the Nazis and the Gestapo, and they sent Tibor with these men. There was a band, I believe it was 7, and there was only one, his name was Peter, who spoke Hungarian, and he spoke it like a 3-year-old child. So communication was a little bit difficult. Tibor also did not want to go. He didn't trust these men. He didn't like anything about it. He was really against it. And what they were going to do was they were going to go to Switzerland, which was a neutral country. And his mother, father, and little sister and older sisters were going to join up with them afterwards. Switzerland was 500 miles away, and they traveled by night using the stars and never going on a main road. They went through the countrysides, back roads, and things like that. His mother told him that basically to do whatever you needed to do, it was okay to go into storehouses, to get enough food to keep you and these men alive so you could get to Switzerland. He wanted to take his prayer book with him because you didn't leave the Rubin household without a prayer book, and he was not able to take it with him, and he did not understand. But he was not going to argue with his father, Farik. Farik was a World War I hero. He also spent nearly 6 years in a Siberian POW camp. So you know his word was law, and he was a tough guy, and the family would not cross him. So they took off across the countryside. Tibor actually stayed away from the men during the day because they slept during the day so they could travel at night to stay safe. They got all the way to the guard shack that was going to lead them into Switzerland. That's when they got caught. He was thrown into Mauthausen German concentration camp, and at that point told, this is where you're going to die. He went through all the rigors of being in that camp, and when he was 15, he was liberated by Patton's army. But Tibor was very, very sick. There was a Red Cross hospital that was set up about 2 miles away from the camp because, and I do apologize, but because of the stench of rotting bodies that were stacked up like cordwood outside of the barracks. So you can imagine a teenager, 15 years old, being faced with something like this. Now, if he wouldn't have been taken in by the doctors and nurses at the Red Cross hospital, I'm certain that he wouldn't have made it. He would have died. And he wasn't supposed to be at the Red Cross hospital, but they took mercy on him. And one of the things that I'm so thankful to all of you here allowing me to come in and speak about him is that we have common ground here. Because Elks, like me, like my friends, believe in God. And we believe that God is leading us. And he's taking care of us, always. Now, Tibor made it through, and he was put in the displaced people's camps in Europe. When he got better, he said, I owe a debt. If I can get to the United States, I will become a G.I. Joe. That's a 15-year-old. I will become a G.I. Joe. He spent the rest of his time there in the displaced persons camp trying to just exist. He did find his brother, and his brother helped him. Emery, he helped him get to the United States. When he got to the United States, he went down to the recruiting office. Now, mind you, Tibor did not have a command on the English language, and he could not spell. He couldn't read the English language. But yet he went down to take the test to get into the Army, because the Army was the branch that saved him. Well, the first time he took the test, he failed miserably. Because those of you that are veterans know that it's a little bubble thing. You fill out the bubbles. Well, he filled out the bubbles in a pattern he liked. And he failed. So when he went the second time, which was 6 months later, he did the same thing. The only thing was, he failed worse. Then, I think it was 6 months after that, maybe a year after that, when he was 20, he went in to take the test for a third time. And the recruiter asked him, well, what is the big deal? You know, it's peacetime. We're not at war. You're not even a citizen. Why do you want to go in the Army? Tibor explained it to him. The recruiter understood. The recruiter put him between a Marine and a Navy guy that was trying to get into the Army. And he said, this guy walking around, don't let him see you. And amazingly enough, Tibor passed with flying colors. Okay, he got into the Army. And by the way, do I have any veterans here? Any veterans? Wait a minute, you know what? I can't see. Oh, do I have veterans here? I have veterans here. Thank you for your service. And for those of you that aren't veterans, let me tell you what a veteran is. First off, those people that raise their hands can argue with me. The rest of you cannot. A veteran is somebody, whether active duty discharge, retired or reserve, who at one point in his or her life signed a blank check to the United States of America for an amount up to and including their lives. That is honor. Those are the people that protect us, defend us, put down their lives for us, and keep us free. And today, in our present society, too many people do not appreciate these veterans, past, present, and future. I just like putting that out there because I really feel that. So Tibor got into the Army, and he was sent off to artillery school. I believe it was in Okinawa. Now, he was put under a very prejudiced first sergeant. And he was there after being in a concentration camp. This first sergeant didn't bug him that much. He really didn't bug him that much at all. Then the war broke out in Korea. And he was told that this was not, he's brought in front of the captain, and the captain told him, this is not your war. You are not a U.S. citizen. You do not have to go. And even though he knew this first sergeant hated Jews, he said, I trained with these men, I'm going with these men. And he was one of the first boots on the ground in Korea. When he was there in Korea, this first sergeant kept sending him out on missions he knew he wasn't going to come back from. And my buddy Tibor, he just wasn't smart enough to go die. He kept coming back. The first time, they had to retreat. And they were on a hill, and there was a big ammo dump. And they did not have enough manpower to take the ammunition and go with them. And they knew that the enemy was going to attack in the morning. So the first sergeant volunteered Tibor to stay and defend the hill, the camp, and all the ammunition. Well, he took it pretty casually at first, just kind of wondering what is going to happen. And then after a period of time, he started to panic. And then he started to plan. I believe it was somewhere about midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. He started planning. And he took grenades and he put them in foxholes. He put carbines on the left, he put carbines on the right. He got ammo belts for the machine gun nests. And he was as ready could be. And Rosie will appreciate this. He had his Butterfingers. He loved Butterfingers. And that's what he was using to just stay awake. He stayed awake for 24 hours. The Koreans, when they attacked, they blew whistles, they blew bugles. But they had to come up the hill. And behind that hill that he was holding was where everyone else was retreating. When he heard the bugles, the whistles, he started lobbing grenades from the right. He started lobbing grenades from the left. He started shooting from the right, shooting from the left, hitting the machine guns because he couldn't let them know he was just one person. He had to be 2 or 3 people. And he held that hill for 24 hours. And when everything stopped, he took off down the road and he found Item Company. That was his company. And the first sergeant was stunned. He didn't know what was going on. And he told him, you got to go back. You got to see what happened. And Tibor felt horrible. He felt horrible for the rest of his life. He knew that it was them or him. He knew that. But he still felt horrible. That was not the way he was raised. That was not his beliefs. That was not okay with God as far as he was concerned. And he had just terrible nightmares for the rest of his life. Well, when he said he fought off the enemy, his first sergeant just thought he was crazy, and he thought he deserted his post. Well, they took some of the officers and they went and looked, and they were astonished. because the carnage was just almost too much to take in. And they said, you're going to get a Medal of Honor, because this is above and beyond the call of duty. And then he just went back to being Tibor, and they went to the next place they were at. There was a convoy that went out. They were attacked. Tibor was able to get out and get back. Most of the people were killed. And he told his first sergeant, I know that this man is still there. We need to go get him. His first sergeant said, you're crazy. You are crazy. Yeah, we're not going back. He's dead. That the enemy got him. He said, no, I just know. I know he's still there. He said, well, you want to go back and get him, you go back and get him. But you're disobeying orders. Tibor disobeyed orders. And he went back and he pulled this man out. He saved his life. And he brought him all the way back to camp. That's the second time that he was put up for the Congressional Medal of Honor. Now, his first sergeant swore that he would not give a Congressional Medal of Honor to Tibor because he was a Jew, and he wasn't going to do it. Then the third time, they were, the Chinese had joined the fight, and I don't know if you know about the Chinese and the way that they fought. The Chinese had like one gun and 3 soldiers, so they would run in line. You shot the first guy down, the second guy picked up the gun, and he kept coming. It was like a wave. And when they were fighting, they noticed that the machine gun that was holding off the bands of the Chinese coming in went up. The people were killed. Tibor went across the line of fire. He got on the machine gun and he told everybody, get out, get out, get out. They said, come on, Tibor, you got to go. He goes, no, I'll catch up. You get out. And everybody got out that could. And they finally threw in a grenade that blew him to the back of the base of where the gun was, but he somehow made it out. That was the third time he was put up for the Congressional Medal of Honor. Then they were going down, I believe they were going through and gathering together with the other companies. And they camped on the side of the road. I think there were like 160 of them, something like that. And my numbers might be off. But the first sergeant, again, volunteered, or shall I say voluntold, Tibor, that he was going to go out into the forest, because the forest was really thick, and they had problems with snipers, and they didn't want to be taken out by a bunch of snipers. So he told Tibor to go out and check in the forest. And if he found somebody, just shoot his gun 3 times. That would be the signal. Yeah, that sounds like a good plan. So Tibor went out, and Tibor was a country boy. He really was. He took care of his father's pigeons, he milked the goats. He could walk in the forest and hear the animals. He could walk in without cracking a branch. Well, he was in the forest, and he noticed the shadow, a silhouette. And he got his gun ready, and then he noticed 2 silhouettes. And he got a little bit worried, and then he noticed about 5 silhouettes. And he started to unbutton his shirt because he wanted to get his white t-shirt so that he could surrender. Well, right about that time, I think it was a captain from the Korean side, saw him and started speaking to him. And he said, who are you? And Tibor gave himself a field upgrade. He said, I'm Major Rubin, with his Hungarian accent. And the captain said, we want to surrender. And Tibor said, okay. here's what we're going to do. You're going to take all the pins out of your rifles, and you're going to put them in that stack right there, and you're going to surrender. Now, there was about, if you look in the book, 600 to 800 of these people. And so then Tibor had a little logistical problem. He wasn't going to be able to go across with 600 to 800 people, especially when they would realize that they could have wiped out the 160 with no trouble whatsoever. So he brought 3 of them to the edge of the forest and told them to wait. And he went very excitedly back to the camp. And he said, hey, they're surrendering now. They're surrendering, yes. Where are they? They're out in the forest. They're out in the forest waiting for you to come get them. Yeah, that's what they are. Tibor, you're crazy. You're just crazy. They wouldn't listen to him. Well, he had enough of a ruckus that finally a captain said, let's get 4 or 5 people and we'll just go out and take a look. So they went out and they took a look, and a couple of soldiers started beating on the prisoners. And Tibor stepped in and said, no, you can't do that. They're prisoners. We can't do that. You cannot treat them like that. And that was the 4th time he was put up for the Congressional Medal of Honor. Now, a little bit down the line, Tibor was captured, and he was put in a Chinese POW camp. In that camp, he took what he learned at Mauthausen, and they say he ended up saving at least 40 lives. There was one incident at that camp where the Chinese who were in charge had left, and the Koreans had taken over. And the Koreans had taken Tibor and 7 other people, and they had marched them out to beyond the barracks and backed them up to a ditch with their heels on the ditch, and they were setting up a firing squad. Well, the men were petrified. Everybody except Tibor Rubin. The gentleman next to him collapsed. Tibor reached down, picked him up, and then another man was so scared that he wet himself. The Koreans thought that was really funny, as they were looking with their rifles aimed at all of them. Oh, an eyewitness there, who was part of one of the people, said he never saw Tibor flinch. He never saw fear whatsoever in the man. When Tibor helped his comrade out, he joined hands with the man on the other side. And he said, let's pray. And they prayed. The Chinese came back and said, what are you doing? And so again, Tibor Rubin saved all those people. Tibor Rubin is the most amazing man I've ever known. And with that, I'd like to tell you about the video. I don't know where my time is. When I created the song, because I always thought that Tibor was an unsung hero, and so I wrote him a song. I played that song for him, and when I played the song for him, it was just him and me. He was sitting in his wheelchair, he was looking at the player, and I wasn't there anymore. He was listening to the song, each and every word. And when it was finished, he looked up at me, and he said, why did you do that? I said, Tibor, you're my friend. You're my hero. And he reached his hand out. I thought he was going to shake my hand. He took my hand and he kissed it. That was my first Tibor. I'll never get an Oscar. I'll never get an Emmy. I'll never get a Tony. But I'm the only guy who's ever gotten a Tibor. And I got 2 of them. Because the second time was when I put this video that we're going to play together, and I played it for him and his wife Yvonne on July 3rd, 2015, because I was going to release it on July 4th. Initially, I was going to give it to him for his birthday, but that didn't work out. So I was going to release it on July 4th, but I had to play it for him first. He had to see it first. We were playing the video, and this has actual Holocaust footage that I was loaned by Steven Spielberg in it. It has actual Korean War footage. And I could see that it was hitting Tibor hard, really hard. And I looked over at Yvonne and I went, and she said, no, go ahead, go ahead. And we played the video. When it was over, he looked at me with teary eyes. And he said, that is the truth. And with that, we can play the video.
He led a peaceful life, but at 13 he was imprisoned and overcome by strife. They threw him in a concentration camp, took away all his rights. The Germans' promise to him was that he would lose his life. When liberated by the U.S. Army, he made a promise from his soul. If he could immigrate to the U.S., he would become a G.I. Joe. So when he came to the States in 48, he finally made good on his word. He was sent to fight in South Korea, and again the lines got blurred. A Hungarian Jew from Pesto, he just wanted a peaceful life. But now the army that liberated him took chances with his life. They sent him on impossible missions, in danger of enemy attack. But he wasn't smart enough to go and die. He always made his way back. He fought bravely for 24 hours so his regiment could safely pass. He prayed to Jesus, Muhammad, and Buddha, can one of you save my ass? His sergeant never came back to get him. He left him on the hill to die. And when Tibor finally caught up with him, his sergeant was shocked and surprised. The little Jew from Pasto, he made it through the night. First sergeant treated him like a zero. You know that wasn't right. He sent him on impossible missions and victoriously returned from the fight. His courageous acts made him a hero because of the anti-Semites. When captured by the Chinese communists, his fellow soldiers distraught. He'd been here before, he was home, he employed what he was taught. He was a doctor, nurse, and counselor after all he'd been through. He risked his life to save his comrades, he did what he had to do. The courageous Jew from Pasto wanted shalom in his life, though he was treated like a zero by the prejudiced people in his life. In the end was made a hero and no longer had to fight. Tibor Rubin is the only Holocaust survivor to be awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor. The Medal of Honor is the United States of America's highest military honor awarded for personal acts of valor above and beyond the call of duty. Tibor Rubin received his medal September 23rd, 2005, 55 years later, because of an anti-Semitic superior.
I wasn't born here. I wasn't a citizen. I just was a little Jew coming back from the most terrible place, and to get a Medal of Honor, that's a big thing. I never knew that I'm gonna be a super Jew. That's I'm joking. I throw a dame for him for nothing. No, I'm not super. I'm just a regular guy. I made it. How I made it, the Lord only don't know. I don't even know. Because I was so many times supposed to be die over there, and I'm still here. It's a miracle. It is a God. It is the best country in the world, and I'm part of it now. I don't have to worry about the Gestapo or SS gonna knock on my door tonight. You understand what this means? I have shalom, peace. People die for it.
One of the things that I skipped over that's really, really important was Tibor's motto, never give up. And because of that motto and his encouragement and Rosie's encouragement, because when I met him, I had given up on my VA benefits. I spent 30 years fighting the VA, and I had just given up. It was just too much. My little sister in 2005, when I gave up on trying to get my benefits, committed suicide. And it was like, I'm done. But with the encouragement of Tibor and Rosie, I'm pretty happy to say I finally got my benefits. In fact, that's the reason why I got the operation on my eye. I got that at the VA from some really great doctors. Thank you very much for allowing me to tell you about my friend Tibor. I appreciate this greatly, and I hope that did your dad some honor, Rosie. God bless you all, and God bless the United States of America.
A Hungarian Jew from Pesto, he just wanted a peaceful life. But now the army that liberated him took chances with his life. They sent him on impossible missions in danger of enemy attack. But he wasn't smart enough to go and die. He always made his way back. He fought bravely for 24 hours so his regiment could safely pass. He prayed to Jesus, Muhammad, and Buddha. Can one of you save my ass? His sergeant never came back to get him.